I mean, what shall I tell you? So I said, okay, give me directions to get to the dry plant. He said, well, I can't go with you right now. I said, I don't care if you can go with me right now. I need to go to the dry plant right now. No, you can't. Okay. So eventually I got to the dry plant. And all this was for $25 per visit that I was getting, if you can imagine. And so I went to the dry plant eventually, and we were giving hechsher on some of the stuff, but not all of the stuff. And I see bags labeled with the symbol for Rabbi Ralbag. Well, for those of you who don't know, Rabbi Ralbag's hechsher was never accepted by anybody. I mean, we had a maisa with using shoe polish as tefillin paint. And Rav J. David Bleich Shlita should live many happy long years and continue to Oved Hashem. We asked him, you would call up the shoe polish company, and first they would tell us, no, there's nothing in there, no animal, vegetable, no animal, no insect, no nothing, right? And then eventually they got so many calls, they said, and even Rabbi Ralbag uses our shoe polish for his tefillin. And I told it to Rabbi Bleich, and he said, until you said that, I was willing to believe the company. But once he was mixed in, forget it. Okay? So before we started, I asked Rabbi Milenowitz about naming names and pointing fingers, and he's here plotzing away, but we'll just continue. Okay. So anyway, one of the ingredients used in this plant that I was supposed to give a hechsher on was Rabbi Ralbag hechsher. Soy product from Texas. So I called up headquarters. Are you accepting this? And he got on the phone, and the balabas claimed that this particular product could not be used on the same machines as the stuff that we were supposedly giving a hechsher to. Very nice, thank you. And then I went on to the flavoring plant. Well, the flavoring plant was, we'll say, between this room and the ladies section. That's how big the whole thing was. And it was like a chem lab. Shelf after shelf of flasks, beakers, test tubes of stuff. Unlabeled stuff, labeled stuff, who knows what stuff, and a few lab tables. And I called up New York and I said, what am I supposed to be doing here? Now remember, this concept of Yotze v'Nichnas, we said, is based on the fact that they're doing the same thing all the time. And anytime I show up, that's what they're doing. And I said, what am I supposed to do here? Well, we're giving hechsher on these two flavors. Ask him for the formula cards. So I asked for the formula cards. The guy said, they're secret. Can't show them to you. Hello, I'm the mashgiach. I have to know. So we called New York again, and they agreed to show me the formula cards without the percentages. And one of the formulas had port wine. I don't know about today. I'm not a wine aficionado, but at the time there was no port wine with hechsher in the whole world. And therefore, little problem, back to the drawing board. So that is my experience as a Yotze v'Nichnas. Now, the Shulchan Aruch talks about lox. Not the lox that's passing around. I hope it comes back, because on the way back we might eat it. But about na'ul, a min'al, and na'ul, a key, and a lock type of a thing. Does this count or not? And it depends on the circumstances. And in Los Angeles, they claimed to have a mapecha, a revolution in the kashrus, by a certain kashrus organization called the Rabbinical Council of California. They threw out all the Machalei Shabbos who would not take a mashgiach tamidi, and the mashgiach was supposed to have the only key to the cooler, and that's how they would control it. Well, I will tell you a story. I had an office in a fancy office building where you pay tons of rent and have nice amenities and so on, and it happened that there was a direct entrance to the fire stairwell from my personal office, but it was locked. So I called up my friendly locksmith, and he came and he produced me a lock against the law, against the will of the landlord, but I had a way to escape from that building. It had caught on fire. So that's how much the lock is worth. If you have a butcher store, and you are inside your butcher store, but the mashgiach has the only key to the cooler, and you call up a locksmith and say, my wife has the keys and I have to get in, the locksmith is going to give you a key. It's that simple. One of the stores in Los Angeles, this kosher club that I mentioned before, there was no cooler to have a lock to, for the mashgiach to have the only key to, and they had electronic surveillance on the store so they would know if the guy came in at night. And one of the machers in the organization, I was in the car with him riding to some kind of a simcha, so I took the opportunity to grill him a little bit. we didn't have to so consult him because we were doing it on the grill. And little inside joke for the Kosher Mevinim. And I asked him, what's doing here? And he said, well, they don't have a cooler that you can have the Olam Mashgiach. We have this electronic monitoring, and we know it works because we caught him going in at night, and we made him give an explanation. Very nice. He had to give an explanation. There was a Maisa with Rav Shimon Schwab, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, who was the Rav of Breuers. Before that, he was in Baltimore. He was in charge of the Maryland Kashrus Commission, and he heard rumors of hanky-panky, and they staked out the parking lot at 3 o'clock in the morning. Came a delivery of not quite kosher meat. And they were all arrested because Rav Schwab was a very smart man, and he knew that, lox and bagels are fine, but lox are not enough to keep the crooks out. Okay. So how should meat be packaged for sale in a non-firm environment? In a way that it can't be mezuyaf, or that it's very hard to mezayef. You can't make it impossible, but you can make it more and more hard. So what agencies are doing now, they're switching from the metal plumbas to holograms. And apparently, to make the hologram stamps is very expensive. And they feel that maybe they will be a little bit ahead of the game with the holograms. But you have to do it in such a way that the packaging with the labeling will be disturbed in such a way that it can't be reused if somebody tries to remove it. Now, many of you have probably never actually seen a chicken foot. This is a chicken foot with a hologram of the Eidach Haredis, and this is their siman of kashrus. Now this you probably also never saw. Of mitzunan lo muchshar, meaning this was not soaked and salted when we got the chicken. Most of them say hudach, v'nimlach, v'nishchad, and so on and so forth. We got this not kosher, and we koshered ourselves. We cut the foot off. When the foot is off, you can take the plumbo off and you can put it back on. But when it's attached to a chicken, it's not going to go over the foot, and it's not going to go over the whole bird. Right? So that's a pretty good siman. And if you try to tear it apart, it will actually tear, so you can't reuse it. So that's a good siman. Here isn't. I'm not pushing Eidach Haredis. I don't buy every Haredis. There's certain things we buy, certain things we don't buy, and I certainly don't get special thanks from them or anything. We use some of their products. All right, so this is how they package chopped liver. You've got this tin, or not a tin, it's a plastic. On the back is a label with their symbol of Eidach Haredis, health department, and so on. Calories, carbohydrates, all the good stuff. And then on top of that, and of course I didn't put any page numbers, so you might hear some stuff twice. On top of that, they put this, which also has a hologram. It has their label. So the question is, can I now reattach this to a new tub or not? If I can reattach this to a new tub, then its value as a chosam is, shall we say, limited. So we buy these not at Supersal. We buy these at the kosher butcher who got it directly from Glat Oaf, carried there by a Shomer Shabbos. So it never went out of Shomer Shabbos supervision. So I can't say for sure it's good. It's better than a kick in the pants, shall we say.
So if it never left the Shomer Shabbos hands, it doesn't need a kosher.
That's correct. Okay. So, I know the procedura. I know this place. I know that the owner is a Shomer Shabbos. I know the worker. There's always a Shomer Shabbos worker there, and I have met the delivery person who appears to be, a Hasidic type of a guy, could be a Litvak in disguise, appears to be a Shomer Shabbos, shall we say, and the factory itself is under constant control of Shomer Shabbos. So we try. I strongly discourage my wife from buying wine or meat in a place that's not itself a Shomer Shabbos place. So ideally, you must have it. So we went to these grocery stores, and we checked all kinds of achsherim, and the Eidach Haredis chicken, which costs $22.90 a kilo in Shefas Shuk, or Shep Mahadran, whatever it's called nowadays, $22.90 a kilo, and at my butcher it's 37 shekels a kilo, big difference. My daughter does not kosher her own chickens. We do. So we get it at the butcher, and I was saying I can save 15 shekels a kilo, or a little bit less, you can do the math, because I buy my daughter's chickens for her, by buying her the chickens at the supermarket, or letting her buy them at the supermarket and I reimburse. And when we got to the supermarket, there were the chickens on sale, and they had a nice hologram and label and so on top. You turned it over, it was saran wrap, and you could easily open that saran wrap and put it on anything you like. And I called up my daughter and I said, it's costing me 15 shekels a kilo more. I'm buying you the chickens from the butcher store. And she said, are you sure, Tati? And I said, yep. And that's what they're doing. Okay, now, I order from my... Yeah.
Whose fault is that? The Ada's or the supermarkets?
Probably the Ada. I mean, you know, they could have put a plumber, and maybe they did put a plumber, I didn't see it, on the oaf itself. If they put a plumber on the oaf itself in a way that the plumber couldn't be removed, then that would absolutely be good.
That's only one.
Well, it's a metal tag, it's got writing on it, it's got a hologram. We could put that together and we could call that a simon. If it didn't have the plumber, right, I'm only talking if there isn't the plumber inside on the bird itself. And if it's an of mechulak, if it's split, that could be problematic. You're absolutely correct, and thank you very much for pointing that out.
A front butcher that has non-Jews working, but there's always a front person there.
That's okay. That's okay, and that's the way most of them are, and that's one reason why we kosher our own meat, because we don't want it to be koshered by Musa and Ahmad. Not that Musa and Ahmad don't know how to kosher, but, you know, a chavrus of mine from many years ago, his father ran a chicken place in Baltimore, and they shechted the chickens, and then the goy inspected the internal organs of the chickens. Now, in the old days, it's not so funny as you might think. In the old days, the balabosta, the lady, took the chicken to the shoichet shechted the chicken, she brought it home, opened it up on her kitchen table, and she looked at the internal organs, and if she saw anything too big, the wrong color, in the wrong place, doubled or missing, then she would go to the Rav with the chicken, and she would ask a shaila. And that's why you have so many shailas and shuvas of ladies bringing chickens to a Rav. How many people here ever brought a chicken to a Rav? Okay, we got one. I used to bring chickens. I used to live in the same building with Dayan Posen Shlita of Breuers. And I would regularly bring him chickens because there were bruises on the legs. And the question was, did it get beaten up before it died or after it died? If it's after it died, we don't care. If it's before it died, then we have to concern ourselves, was the animal hurt in such a way that makes it treif? But most people have never brought a chicken to a Rav, but it used to happen all the time. So the lady would look and see if there's a problem. So here the goy is opening the chicken, and if it has anything not kosher, he gets to keep the chicken. So he's extremely machmir. He's looking out for the slightest possibility that the chicken is not treif. I'm not saying to do that, but Lamaisa, that's what they did. There's a gefilte fish place, A&B gefilte fish, which is available in Israel, very delicious stuff, under Hashgach of Rabbi Horowitz. And I called up Rabbi Horowitz to see, does he inspect, or does the mashgiach inspect, a Shomer Shabbos person inspect every fish? Because lots of people are makel on that. I'm not saying they're allowed to be, but lots of them are, and we are not. We meaning the Rogins. And so I asked, does a Shomer Shabbos person inspect every fish? And he told me they used to have a system that they would pay the goy who was receiving the shipment $10 for every fish that was from the wrong species. So it was in his interest to find it, and he decided that that system really wasn't right, and he therefore made it that there is a Shomer Shabbos inspecting every fish. I'm not telling you that's what's occurring there. I'm saying that's what he said occurs there. In fact, we do eat it, but I'm not taking any a tiny bit of achrayas for it. If you eat it, you have to do your own checking, or you're samach on the hechsher.